If you missed the first two webinars and you want to check them out, they're on our YouTube channel and we can follow up with a link. But I'll pass it over to my colleague Mackenzie to get us started with a little bit of information about our organization before we hear from Drexel and CU Boulder.
Oh, sorry, realized I was muted. Thanks, Shayna. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Mackenzie. I'm co-director with Shayna of Rewild Your Campus. And welcome to the last part in our summer webinar series. And just to give you a little bit of overview of what we do. So we are a national organization, with the mission of eliminating synthetic pesticides from college campuses and helping schools transition to organic, biodiverse green spaces. It's like doing this thing where it's playing, so I have to keep pausing it. So just a little bit about our impact. Through our work, we've gotten the University of California system to ban glyphosate. We've worked with a lot of schools on transitioning to organic. So through all of that, we've are now protecting like over 560,000 students every year from synthetic pesticides. We have helped transition or improved the pesticide policy on thousands of acres. And we have a certification now, and we've certified 14 institutions through our Green Ground certification. Majority are universities, and we've just recently opened that up to non-schools, and we certified a nature center, a city park, and recently like another educational center landscape. We also have a boot camp where we mentor students and teach them about advocacy and this issue of pesticides, and have reached hundreds of students and community members that way. So how we typically, oh my gosh, this thing's going crazy. How we typically work with a school. So like I mentioned, for those of you that are already at this certain level of at least half of the managed acres of your campus are managed without synthetic pesticides, you would qualify for a certification. We've certified Drexel this year, which is exciting. Haven't gotten CU Boulder on there yet, but hopefully soon. And then we also offer these pilot projects where if you're a school that wants to reduce pesticide usage on your campus, but you don't know how, you can work with us where we bring in an expert and help train your grounds team on how to transition to organic. Drexel will talk about, the work that they've done to transition that way. And CU Boulder has done that for a while now in a variety of ways and we haven't worked on that with them, but they've done that even before we were an organization. And so excited to hear more about that. And today we will be talking about lawns and how we manage green spaces without pesticides. But another thing that we also work on is the rewilding piece and thinking about how can we convert, underutilized spaces or even part of the lawn to native habitat, pollinator habitats, things like that. So if any of that interests you, please reach out to us. We do a lot of collaboration with grounds and sustainability offices. And like I mentioned, we work a lot with students. And just wanted to plug, we will be working with ASHE on a course. It'll be like a 6 to 8 week course starting in 2026. So if you're interested in that, we will have a survey we will send out. We can put it in the chat and send it out after. Please fill it out. Where the materials, the timing, the length of the course, all of that will kind of depend on what folks like you are interested in. So your opinion really matters on that. Here's just a list of the schools that we've certified. It has bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Like I mentioned, bronze is 50% synthetic pesticide free, and it goes all the way up to platinum is 100% of your campus is managed without synthetic pesticides. We got Drexel at the silver level, which is super exciting, and it's been growing a lot. And then here are the schools that we are doing pilot projects with. or have done, you know, some sort of pilot project with in the past. Most recently, we just launched at Stanford. And so with that, it's really about choosing a couple spaces on campus. With Drexel, it was like Drexel Park. There was one area that we focused on, and the idea is, you know, getting the grounds team comfortable and confident with how to manage, you know, a couple spaces without synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. And then once the team feels like it's going well, they have now the skills and the, you know, resources to be able to expand that beyond, because the goal is really how can we get the whole campus to, you know, use less pesticides.
Oh, this is about rewilding your campus, kind of like what Walter did right there by the Catholic Church, by the whatever Newman Center.
Yeah, I don't know what Catholic Church you're referring to, Tom, but yes, this is about bringing in native plants to spaces. So this was at Grinnell College, and it was a underutilized lawn that students worked really hard in partnership with grounds and sustainability to convert into a native prairie, and it looks super beautiful. We got to go and visit it, and it's just buzzing with life. And the president of the university requested a couple more prairie spaces be created after this. So that was really promising. This is just a little clip to show kind of where we work. And you know, this could look like the pilot project, certifying schools, or just meeting with students at these schools. So it's definitely a movement that is actively growing every single day. More schools are wanting to figure out, you know, how we can use less pesticides and rewild our campuses. And yeah, I won't talk too much about Drexel because Scott will cover Drexel, but it's really one of the model schools for us because it started with students getting passionate about the activism, coming to our boot camp, working in partnership with grounds, you know, getting less pesticides on campus, and then finally getting our certification. So it's really kind of the model that we love to follow, with students really kind of like being these like the, you know, advocates for change to start. And if you're here, you probably already are aware of the problem with pesticides, but you know, the large majority of Americans have detectable pesticides in our bodies. We're exposed through so many ways, through our food, and also through our landscaping. And so if we can, you know, be just part of that change and at least have less or no pesticides on our landscaping, that's really the goal here. And so thank you for your interest in this. We're really excited about it. And I think just one kind of piece to hone in on, organic land care doesn't mean it has to look ugly. It doesn't mean that there's going to be more weeds. It doesn't mean that the campus is going to look neglected. I think this is a common fear or misconception when folks first hear, you know, that we want to use less pesticides. And so by doing this series of webinars, we're really bringing in the experts that have proven, yeah, there are definitely challenges. There's a learning curve, but we've seen that like campuses can look just as beautiful, if not even better, when they are not using synthetic pesticides. So I'll leave it at that. You can reach out to us if you have any questions, and I will turn it over to our two speakers. We have Scott from Drexel and David from CU Boulder, and then we'll have lots of times for Q&A. And Shayna, who is starting off?
Scott's gonna kick us off.
Okay.
So I'll pass it to you, Scott, and you can share your screen and take it away.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Like we kind of saw to start, we were a pilot. Let's see, hang on. Yeah, the right screen. We were a pilot a little bit ago. Does that look right to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So student-led initiative reached out to us in the grounds department. And a few years ago in 2022, locally Toxic Free Philly was the group. We talked quite a bit over that spring and summer, just, you know, what their goals were, why they were interested, what our goals were at the time, how we could, you know, kind of marry the two. We decided that it would be worth it to test out Drexel Park in 2023. We started up there. So it's about a 2-acre park on the north end of campus. It's all dog walkers in the morning, all students sunbathing, playing games, whatever, all afternoon, events into the evening. So heavily used all day long. In a giant area where we were always kind of just cringing when we knew we had an herbicide application, because we post, we'll put signs, we'll send all the notifications out, and still, you know, people ignore, and you walk through and tennis ball through the dew and herbicide and all that kind of stuff in the morning. So it was always just a site we were cringing, waiting for something to go wrong. So we started there. Basically just right away, the spring, we just skipped pre-emergent and that we normally do in the spring. Just stopped all herbicide applications all summer long. Kept the water going. Because we weren't pre-emerging in the spring, we could add an extra turf, aeration, and seeding when normally those two kind of cancel each other out. So we started to work on just growing thicker turf, cutting out chemicals. And then now in 2025, we've moved pretty much chemical free throughout the campus. So we noticed right away that everything just kind of looked very good in June. Philly summers are very hot. Other than the trees immediately under, the park is full sun all day, heavy traffic. So irrigation is key, obviously, but we felt there was no loss of turf and certainly no loss in quality by cutting out kind of just the traditional, whatever fertilizer was up, due for that year. We always shoot for 2 to 3 pounds of nitrogen a season. So we just cut those out, cut all the weed control out, mowed a little higher, water a little more, and it held up pretty well. So before anybody tests or does anything, first, I would just recommend you need to know what you're dealing with first. So soil testing. This is an overview of the park. X's are where we pulled plugs from the ground. Really important to know what your soils are like first before you just start adding anything into your turf program, whether it's, lime, potash, anything. You want to know what your pHs are, what your organic levels are, all your NPK, just kind of get a good idea. Spread them out. This park especially was constructed maybe 10 years before I started at Drexel. So it used to be vacant lots, dry cleaners, garages, things like that. So all the soil was brought in. No idea the amount of, base layer fill was taken out to start. So we have all kinds of things going on in this park. We wanted to really get a good idea of what we had. Send them out wherever you want to. Locally, we use either Penn State or Rutgers. There's soil testing labs all over the country, whatever is convenient for your university or township. Send out, get your results. Most will offer the basic, just NPK, pH, and kind of give you a basic soil profile, which is more than enough to get you going. You can get into that a lot more. Just, a much more analytical test that'll offer, cation exchange and mycorrhiza content and organic, you can really go nuts with it. At the basic level, you want to just have a very broad strokes view of what you're dealing with. After that, it's really just doing your homework. So in our case, for years, coming from commercial landscape prior to Drexel, HOAs and shopping centers, and it was just the way you did it. So chemicals are a big part of just the contracts that were sold all over the place to the customer. So I brought a lot of that to Drexel with me. We had a contracted service provider that would, on whatever schedule through the season, pre-emergent, and then pre-post emergent as weeds started to emerge, fertilizer, post-emergent, late summer, everything. So we're paying for that. Priced everything out, and we use an Earthworks product. There's plenty of them out there, but we found a lot of these products are definitely more expensive. The older traditional ways are mass produced, easy to come by, and very cheap. So this stuff just takes a little bit more into it, and certainly there's a demand, so the prices are higher. We found though that terminating the contract for our turf applications on campus was basically the money we had to spend on the additional products in-house. Adding to that, we don't need specialty training for anything that we're applying. It's basically just pelletized fertilizer. Grass seed is obviously very safe. We're not adding chemicals, so we don't need boom sprayers or Z sprays or anything to kind of ride around campus. Everything is just push spread by hand. Our campus is spread out, but relatively small. Turf wise, we're between 7 and 9 acres. There's always something under construction. So it's an easy task to spend a week and just broadcast fertilizer, seed, whatever it may be. And again, because we cut out pre-emergence, we'll aerate and seed in the spring and not have to worry about the pre-emerge kind of canceling that. And then we'll do it again at the end of the summer as things typically stress out through the heat. Try and time it before everybody moves back to campus. So a test first, cost analysis, and then come up with your plan. We leave things pretty vague. We just aim for times of year. Things will be weather dependent and events on campus dependent, but it's typically, you've got your calendar for the year. It's more or less the same, depending on where you are in the country. So develop your plan, mix in, how long it takes your people to do it instead of a contractor to do it. Build in fluff. We're a union shop and things just move a little bit slower. We just build that time into, what it takes. So if we can knock the whole place out in a weekend with a contractor, it'll take us a week during the day. We just have to work around the student body that's on campus. Watch it, observe it, pay attention to it, try something new. You don't have to do your entire campus all at once with the same product. You can do half and half, try different things, see what works the best. We tried a couple of different post-emergent, OMRI listed herbicides, just spot spray here and there when we had like a flush of clover or something like that. And just try different things and see what works. A few things to do also is just once you decide if it's going to be right for you, is let someone know about it. You might as well get buy-in behind you. It's typically the students, maybe the administration that wants you to do it, but once you make that step, it's typically business as usual on a campus. So follow up and make sure people know that you're doing it. So we put out press releases through local channels, like some local, Philadelphia Inquirer and some local newspapers. We sent it out through an email blast to the university community. And then this is just a PDF of an image, but we have this on a sandwich board that was set up when we are broadcast fertilizing or spot spraying. It's a quick thing to just set up. And so anybody can go by, ask our guys questions, or scan the QR code, takes you to your sustainability site, and it shows, what we're using, why we're doing things like that. Our information's on there, so anybody can certainly reach out if they need to. But, once you start, you need continued buy-in and support behind you. So just let people know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and feel free to take pictures and show good or bad results along the way. Like I said, we've tried a few different products for different, either hard surface, or obviously Roundup was one of the bigger ones we cut out. So in the city, lots of sidewalks, lots of curb and crack weeds that we can't really let get out of hand. We had to just rethink how we do it. We tried a couple of different products. Axe so far available on Granger has been the best. They're more expensive, so we really rethink how we do it. You have to figure out what your comfort level is with weed pressure and what to do when it happens. So things really start to take off in the summer and humid, July, August. We actually have our mow crews weed eat down a lot of the taller stuff, and as it starts to grow back, we'll spray it with Axe or Cheetah or whatever we have home plate. We're kind of bouncing back and forth between the two and get it as it's starting to grow. We have a better chance of killing it that way. Normally these are just kind of like burn down products and they don't go through systemically like Roundup was. Mowers we set higher. We were cutting a little lower for the longest time. We set it up to 3.5 and maintain that. So that typically kind of outgrows and outshadows a lot of the weeds. Whatever you're comfortable with is, something you have to decide. Again, when we're spraying, we have the QR code. If anybody feels like, back checking, what are you spraying? Our staff knows what they're spraying, why they're spraying it, and are comfortable talking about it. If anybody feels they can scan it to our sustainability site. We do have some turf weeds here and there. You have to decide what you're visible with. This area, the turf's a little thin and gets beat up. But for the most part, we're, dry. We had a little bit of a dry spell here. It rained the other night, but prior to that, not much rain in the last 4 weeks. You're relying heavily on irrigation. Campus is green. We've already gone through end of summer core aeration. Seed is starting to pop up. Decide what your comfort level is with weeds and where. The park, we let it go. It's a park. We don't really mind it. Around our administrative building and areas where we have a lot of heavy foot traffic and a lot of eyes on it, don't have as much of a tolerance for weeds. So that's where we'll try some of the Fiesta we've had okay results with, or we just have to be comfortable with it. As long as you're advertising what you're doing, most people are on board with it. So, and like we said, now we're certified and no going back. All right, that's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. It's fantastic. Sweet. Well, now I will have David present. Give me 1 second, David, to share your slides. Okay.
What's happening is
All right.
can I kind of just play off of Scott for a few minutes and talk?
Yes, please.
Because this
Please.
is a little more turf focused discussion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Scott, when you all started, did you test your organic matter?
We did. The park is one. Behind our rec center is another big area of an acre or two, and then there's a plaza.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
park had decent amount. Rec center was okay. The plaza was basically recently constructed, so that was fine.
Yeah, nice. I would recommend, I'll get into a little bit of this, but I would recommend you guys continue that organic testing and see what happens. We're probably, I guess we're 15 years in now, and we weren't really testing organic matter until recently. And we noticed that the organic matter is a lot higher, but our nitrogen is also down. I think we're just a little over a pound sometimes, and our watering is less. So we've seen some benefits on the turf side to doing this long term. Now we've also found what you found, right? You find a new weed threshold and that becomes a standard. And once people get used to it, I know different campuses would have different thresholds that they'd be acceptable with. But anyway, just encourage you to do that to see what happens, because we were kind of too late into the game to have a presentation on our progress when we started talking about the organic matter in the soil.
Thank you.
Actually started working on that with a gentleman close to you guys. Have you crossed paths with Nate Clemmer?
I don't think so.
Okay, he's in Philadelphia and does some organic products for lawn and golf course.
Okay.
So anyway, my presentation is really more on our use of steam weed control in hardscapes in our landscape beds. It does have some application on turf, but with us using a cool season grass, it's not really efficient for a spot treatment. So Shayna and Mackenzie, I'll let you give me some guidance on which direction to go.
I think, talking about the steam weeding would be fantastic. And then if you also want to talk a little about your turf program, that'd be great as well.
Okay, great. Well, it all kind of rolls in together. And I'm sorry that I'm not controlling the slide. But if you want to pop down one, let me get to our pesticide, our starting. So the campus, I've been at the campus since 2014. As many of you at universities know, every state has got different budget rules. I manage the housing and dining landscape. We have a separate landscape department that does the academic buildings. So anything that I say as a caveat, it's only part of our campus. So I'm not speaking for all of us. But if you would mind sliding to the next one, people will see some of that. So the campus decided to go more towards pesticide free in the mid 2000s. And that was around 2010, we made the decision to go to pesticide free turf. To 2011, as everybody worked on that project together, the housing and dining area also decided that the residents did not want us using pesticides in the beds. So we've been largely pesticide free since 2011 on my part of campus. And again, organic a lot of times has a caveat. We do treat our ash trees for emerald ash borer, but we don't use any aesthetic pesticides. You know, if we're putting a pesticide on campus, it's a last resort, and we're using it to save a particular plant or do something, you know, maybe in an invasive species. So as many of you would know, if the tool was just taken away from you and you got nothing to take its place, it is really a challenge to maintain the landscape. You're not going to get extra staff. It just starts to get weedy. When I showed up on campus in 2014, it looked pretty bad. I came from the Southeast where we did not have great grass just because of water, but we did have nice landscape beds. That was kind of a difference in Colorado where we used creek water to irrigate. So we've got really nice turf, but we don't have the staff to have really nice beds. So it took a while to get used to that flip. I won't really get into the challenges of not having any tools. I'm sure if any of you are in this world, you know that. So if you'll slide down to the next, please. Boulder had a really bad flood in 2013. And when the floodwaters went into our steam vaults, they boiled, overflowed into the grass, and they just killed large areas of grass around campus. Let's see if this one, if you'll slide down to the next one. When my turf manager reseeded those areas, he noticed that there was almost no weeds in them, and it's still some of our really good looking grass on campus. So with the pesticide-free turf, and I'm sorry I'm bouncing back a little bit, but I want to try to include as much turf as I can for you guys since that's what the presentation is. We're really heavy on aeration and overseeding, and that's really one of the things that gives us the ability to keep the turf. So we replaced a lot of the pesticide applications with the cultural things that Scott was talking about before. But we started doing some research on steam. One of my managers decided to try to convert one of our pressure washers into a steam machine. And when he boiled the hose, he figured it probably was not very safe. So if you'll slide down one more, we did find a company out of Australia called Weed Technics. And they make a process that's patented that they call saturated steam. What they're doing is they're keeping water in a liquid state between 205 and 218 degrees. And that temperature causes destruction pretty instantly on the cells of a plant. And one of the best ways that I would describe that is if you put your hand in an oven at 400 degrees, it's hot, but you're not burned as long as you don't touch anything. However, if you spill boiling water on your arm, you've got really a bad injury. So that's the same thing that's happening to the plants. So if you'll keep going, one more. We did a lot of work with our administration, and we got the funds to purchase a machine in 2016. And as Scott mentioned in his presentation, we had a plan to measure and report back to our leadership if the equipment was useful for us. So we set a goal, we established a presentation standard, we did an implementation and an inspection process, and then we measured the results. So if we pop down to the next one, we found we identified a test area that had 2.4 acres of bed space, and we wanted to keep it below 5% weed pressure. And obviously the goal was to make campus look better, and then to do that using fewer labor hours than hand weeding. So the presentation standards that we set up was less than 5% was ideal, 5 to 10 was acceptable, 10 to 25 was not acceptable, and then over 25 was out of control. When we started that trial in 2016, most of the panels were kind of in that 2 to 3 range. We got the machine late in the spring and the guys knew it was coming, so there was really no hand weeding done. So we're looking pretty bad when it showed up. Then what we did, we treated everything in a test panel to bring it to level 1. We recorded the time, and then we inspected it every week. And when it got back to that level 2, where it was over 10%, we would schedule a retreatment. Then here would be some pictures of a couple of areas. The hardscapes, you know, obviously it worked really, really well in that. This would have been one treatment between June 29th and September 7th. The second picture would have been taken on September 7th. So one treatment lasted that area for the summer. Next, the rock beds were also really well adapted to the steam. There were 2 treatments in that time period, and this is what it looked like at the end of the summer after 2. The mulch beds were a little bit harder to maintain, and you know, one of the things that the steam does is it does germinate some of your seed bank. So there are some species that you'll cause to grow, but that's kind of nice because you're reducing the long-term seeds that are in your soil. So this was also 2 treatments, but you know, some of our others, the better the soil is, the more weed that you've got, they may need 3 treatments. Yeah, here's one that was pretty bad, and it was 3 treatments as well. So what we found in the test results, you are a good keeper up or on slideshow. Thank you. To maintain that level 1 appearance, 25% of the panels only needed 1, a little over 50% took 2, and another 20% took 3. And most importantly, we really improved the way campus looked. The rates that we found when we tested hand weeding, and I don't remember what the weed threshold in that was. I'm sure it was over 10%. That was 1,400 square feet an hour. The first round of steaming was almost double. And then we were up to 4,700 square feet an hour on that on the second treatment. The other nice thing that we found was that the weeds just decomposed. If you've used Roundup, you know, you just got a dead weed there, and it does not decompose because it also kills the microbial life. So we were really, really pleased to see that the weeds we steamed decomposed on us. We didn't have to do any cleanup. 2017, I'll kind of zip through this part and then get you to some of our newer results. We bought a second machine in 2017. The academic side of campus purchased a machine as well, and they reduced their glyphosate usage a good bit. I think now they're more transitioning to some organic chemicals. I mean, some organic pesticides, and I've not had a conversation with them lately about how that's doing. But we'll get into the performance. The saturated steam has been really effective, and I believe that it provides a viable alternative. The machines have performed as advertised, and we estimated that the labor savings would let us pay for the machine in about 2 years. And I need to take this part out of my presentation because I have no clue what a chemical pesticide program would cost right now. And the machines have a good life expectancy of 10 years. Our oldest that we're still using, we just had it reserviced this year, and it's in great shape, and we bought that 2017. So it's still going strong after 8 years. Then some of the benefits, there's no chemicals to document, mix, or store. It's immediately effective. One of the really nice things about steam is if you've ever steamed anything on your stove, you know that it's changing colors. You can tell that that weed's dead before you leave the area. There's no overspray. If it's raining or windy, you can still continue to use it. And what we found in our test that we probably would not have been able to spray about 25 days because it was either too windy or rainy. And then again, no cleanup. And then I do not have I do not have notes for this on this presentation, but if I have a few more minutes, I can give you an update on the last 5 years.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, great. So our turf grass is a mix of rye, bluegrass, and fescue. We did steam some spot treatments to test with dandelions and different things, and it is effective, but it's really slow. With us being a pesticide-free turf, there is a willingness to have more weeds. And what we've decided to do with that is once the weeds get to a threshold that we can no longer bear, we would steam out a whole area and reseed it. So spot treating is not great for us. If you had a warm season grass, spot treating may be more effective for that. It does work, it's just really slow. And we can get grass to grow so quickly with our mix, you know, it doesn't make sense for us to not just steam the whole area. Let's see, notes on the cost of the machines. I think this would be like any tool in your arsenal. If you have 1 or 2 operators that are doing a good job, that machine's going to last a long time. If it's getting handed around to a lot of different people, it's not going to last very long at all. So that really operator training, operator use, they're not hard machines to use, but if you take care of them, they do last a long time. Again, 2017 machine we just had reserviced for a couple $1,000, and it's operating perfectly. They're not really complicated. So let's see. Between 2018 and 2019, I did a reorganization and was changing some positions. So I had 3 areas of campus that used 3 different management strategies. And basically I had 3 gentlemen that were being considered to promote to a new position, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to manage their area while we worked through the bureaucracy of changing position salaries. Area 1, these guys consistently use steam since 2017, and every area in their place is between 5 and 10%. Shayna, that's the area that we looked at when you came to campus. So they've been using steam, I guess that would be 8 summers now, and it's a fantastic control. It's easy to maintain. They actually have some free time to help other areas. Area 2, I would call that reactionary use of steam, and they treated it when an area got bad. That really did not work, and unfortunately this was the part of campus in the test area. So because that operator was just going out when things got bad, he lost control of that for a season, and then we had to come up with a plan to do that later. The third area was infrequent use of steam, and it just was a good indication of the challenge of not having a tool. When your leadership takes away pesticides and don't give you something to replace it, that's what your campus is going to look like. So we had a really nice test bed at that time. Starting in 2023, as the manager, I just kind of stepped in and set the program up. We set a steam schedule for the areas that were not using it. And area 1 remains optimal. Area 2, it was kind of a military strategy. We decide what we want to treat. We make sure that that area never falls below that level 2 of 10% weeds, and we expand the property as we can. As I mentioned, the process gets faster the more that you do it. And after the 3rd season, I'm really happy with the way we've got that area under control. So I'm pretty confident in saying, if you have this tool, when pesticides are removed, you can maintain a weed-free space. If you've lost control of an area because your tools were taken away, you would be back at good coverage, you know, after a 3-year period. So that would be kind of the end of mine. And I'm sorry I don't have any pictures of that. I've got some that I need to add and update this presentation. But again, I'm pretty sold on the use of this. It's been a really good tool to keep us from having to use pesticides for aesthetics, and been a good complement to our turf program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David.
You're
That was
welcome.
a great presentation. I didn't realize like the history of the like steam like overflowing and that being what made folks think, oh, I wonder if steam could be a good technology. That's super cool. Well, I would love to open it up now to questions if folks want to either raise their hand or come off mute and ask, or if they want to pop questions in the chat. I can also facilitate and ask the questions to our speakers. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and type them in. Emily in the chat asks if there are any specific species that the steam machine does not work on.
Looks like the next question will be fun too.
I know, I saw that and I thought of the goosenator or whatever you called it.
Yeah. So as long as the stem is soft, it will kill anything. Once the stem starts to get woody, you're not going to get the same dieback. What's happening with that weed is the more root structure that you've got above ground, the better that weed is able to recover. So you may kill everything above ground, it's going to shoot the energy up, but the roots actually shrink when it's doing that. So you may need to hit some of your more hardy weeds 2 times, 3 times. If I was implementing it in a new area, I would plan on steaming once, come back again 2 weeks, do it again, and then you should be able to go on a monthly rotation. But we've not found anything it doesn't kill unless it gets too hard, the stem gets hard.
Awesome. And what about geese? David, you want to start and then we can pass to Scott to talk about geese at Drexel?
Yeah, was it just a question on how do you deal with geese?
Yeah, it was, do either of you deal with geese as a major pest on campus? And I'll add in a question on the how, if so, how?
Yeah, we've got a huge problem on campus. So we irrigate largely out of ponds. Ditch water or creek water goes into a pond and we irrigate out of that. However, we have 2 that we don't pull out of, and geese were a tremendous problem there. I think at sometimes during the migration, we would have 80 on a small, maybe 1-2 acre pond. It was just overloaded and goose poop. You know, if you've had geese, you know what I'm talking about. We tried everything. We tried to get people to come out with border collies. They worked great. But in Boulder, nobody was willing to come work the dogs. We tried to buy a dog. We eventually settled on a remote controlled device called a goosenator. I would describe it as a remote control float plane with no wings to give you a visual. That machine has been fantastic. We've been using it for 3 years and we had no nest on the ponds this year. There's currently 0 geese on either pond. So it's works really well. Again, if you write down goosenator, you should be able to find it. If not, you can contact us through there. But that's been a great machine. The geese are really smart when they get used to it. They don't like it. We did use it. Probably at first we were using it 6 days a week, probably 2 or 3 times a day. Now it was quick. Once you brought it out there and they saw it and heard it, and they would leave, but they would come back. We had it broken one year when it was around Valentine's Day when they were nesting up, and I think we had 5 nests around the ponds that year. So we had 30 goslings running around and they made a terrible mess. But the last 2 seasons, we've had no nest on our ponds and only 1 family came in each time. So that one's been fantastic for us.
Awesome. And Scott, what about y'all? What's your experience with geese?
We also have geese, but all basically focused on our athletic fields. The campus, city's just too busy otherwise, but the athletic fields are generally pretty quiet and some of the only big green grass in that area. And unfortunately, the softball outfield is their preferred spot. So we have tried, somebody asked if we've tried, fake coyotes and things like that. We've done that over the years. Like he said, David said, they're very smart. Go up to them pretty quickly, realize they're not a threat, and then just don't bother. We get the ones that flap in the breeze. We move them around every few days. Ultimately, we have to be able to, have a softball practice or a game without having to really work through the mess left behind. So we do use a traditional kind of flight control spray, focused on the outfield only of our softball field as needed. All of our irrigation is, through city water feeds, so no ponds and no rivers or anything like that. So we really struggled with that. We let them stay there. There are a couple of foxes like around the athletic complex. So, that's been maybe a little bit of a help, but when it's time and they come in, the outfield's a target. So if it interferes with gameplay, we have to handle it that way.
And then, Caitlin asked, is it recommended to stick to the grass that is already on a campus, or should campuses try different types of grass? I don't know if either of y'all have thoughts on grass type. Would love to hear.
Scott, do you want to go with that one?
Sure. We are primarily all fescue blends. We've just found it's holds up to heat and foot traffic stress just a little better than some of the others. We do get campus grass just really gets beat up. Any big open area is just a congregation of everybody wants to sit outside. So we've got Adirondack chairs all over the place. There's tents and events and inflatables and all kinds of stuff constantly. So we found that holds up better than bluegrass rye or anything like that. It takes a little longer to germinate. So we really hit everything hard in the spring. It'll stress a little over the summer and then we'll hit it again in the fall. We've kind of found a pretty good balance of just sticking with that. Occasionally we'll blend, here or there if we need a really quick germinating area. But primarily using fescue.
And our blend with the rye is to get it to come up quick, and then the bluegrass and fescue mix is kind of dependent on if it's in the shade or in the sun. I think as far as changing would be if you had a new construction, you may want to work with your landscape architect if you didn't want to mow to try a different species, but it may be problematic to convert. And I say that in the context of if you want to stop mowing and let it look native, that's when another variety may be more beneficial. But yeah, I think each area of the country has a couple of grasses that are best for that area, and it just depends on the inputs that you want to use.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then Adam is asking about community partners. And is curious if either of you have experience with local nonprofit partners on organic landscaping. I guess, we're not local to Drexel, but we were a nonprofit partner in their work. Or the campus staff offering services to neighbors to generate revenue. That's interesting. I don't know if either of you have an answer to Adam's question or thoughts.
No, we've got our hands full with what we have, so we've not really done. I take that back. We do work with a local pollinator group to try to provide some areas for them to do on campus. There's plenty of space if there's a group of people that want to do kind of an unattractive area or a problem area. If we wanted to make that a pollinator bed or something, so some of that we do. But there's really a lot of budget rules as far as any of our money being going to city things. So not a ton. Mainly the pollinator world, I think, is where we would do community stuff.
Scott, do you have anything to add from Drexel?
We really have not partnered with anybody. The city kind of has their own groups to go around with the water department and things like that with greenscapes and kind of working on the stormwater things. But within the campus, it's kind of just our grounds and facilities to do anything. It's difficult to, I think, cross a lot of the red tape partnering with anybody, because then liability wise, I feel like our risk management office is very anal when it comes to that. So,
I know we have some other folks on this call too, like Tyson, or Jason. I don't know if you all have ever worked with community partners. Maybe not. Just thought I would ask.
No, I haven't much, sorry.
Jason, I saw part of your question on the Steam tool, but I did not see the end of it pop across my screen.
Yes, I'm sorry. I jumped on a little bit late, so I apologize if you already addressed them. I was just curious with the steam tool, are you able to spot treat on the turf weeds and through the summer months and possibly reseed in the fall, or have you had any experience on turf to see how it reacts?
Yeah. What type of turf do you have on your campus? Where are you located?
We're in Cambridge, Mass. Primarily bluegrass, but it's a blend with fescue and rye and
Okay.
bluegrass.
That's what we use. So what we did one fall was we marked off some 100-foot squares and we counted the dandelions and we spot treated. They've got a probe that you can release steam slightly under the soil. And there's a couple of different heads that we did it. So we tested 4 areas and we did a combination of things. One was just steam, one was just aeration, one was overseeding, testing some of the cultural practices. What we found out really quickly was because we've got that mix of rye, we can overseed pretty fast, and it was better for us with our grass to just steam a large area if it got bad than to try to spot treat bits and pieces at a time. And another caveat that I'll give with that is we really don't have a lot of complaints about weeds in our campus turf. So people are used to it. It looks green. We mow it 2 inches. We have a good bit of clover. We have a good bit of dandelions. The cultural practices keep them a little bit under control. Mowing keeps it under control. We find I guess some of the weeds do different things for you with nitrogen. As we get our numbers right, the weed pressure goes down a little bit. But when something gets too bad, we've used the tool to steam it out, wait a week, steam it again, and then reseed.
Yeah.
But
Most of the weeds, a lot of the weeds in the lawns are spaced out pretty good, and we live with them. They're not. They don't cause much issues in our community either. Some of the lawn ivy and the creeping Charlie, those are the ones that like to nip in the bud before they become widespread. So I was just curious if
if you had something
would be
like that,
effective at all.
if you got something that was just getting started and you wanted to shut it down, you could do that, I think. Especially if you were transitioning from a pesticide program to a pesticide free, the spot treatment I think would be effective. But because we were 10 years in, we already had weeds everywhere. It wasn't really effective for us to go spot treat.
Good to know. Also, one more question too. Sorry again. Like I said, I came on late. How long do you need to keep the steamer over the weeds? Is it instant? Is it 10 seconds, 20 seconds? What would you say the time span if you were going through a large bed?
When I operate it myself, I count to 10 when I'm getting started. Not 10, 1,000, 1,000, 2, 1,000, but I just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As I use it more, that number comes down. So it's just a couple seconds. The other nice thing about it is when you've steamed an area, the stuff that you've killed is a darker color and it's already wilted, so you can tell if you need to go back and hit anything.
Good to know. Thank you.
And then following up on that, oh, sorry.
No, I
I
just
just,
said,
I just think Caitlin asked, how long should an area be closed off for steam treatment? Does it need to be done with or without students on campus? Does it need to be closed off?
no, so the head that we used was in the first picture of the slideshow, and it's kind of like a small shoebox. The steam stays under that. You would not want to touch that box, but I mean, as long as the student was not right there where you were working, it wouldn't be a problem. I think one of my favorite things about it, when we use it in the sage and the honeybees are around, they fly around that machine like crazy. So I'd love to get a video just of how pollinator friendly that is. So there's no, your only danger would be if a hose broke and you were shooting some really hot water at somebody, but the chances of that happen are so slim. It's really a safe machine.
Awesome. Any last questions? And then Mackenzie, just flagging for everyone, Mackenzie dropped a survey in the chat, and we would really appreciate it if everyone who's on could take a couple of seconds after this call to fill out the survey. It'll help inform our creation of our course, because ultimately we want to make sure the course is as beneficial for folks on this call and folks in your guys' positions as possible. So we really appreciate any input you all can give us on the course. And thank you so much, David and Scott, for taking the time to present. It was awesome to learn more about your programs, and I learned a lot. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank
my
you both
pleasure. Thank you
taking
for
the
having
time.
us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Thank you,
Of
everyone.
course.
I'm also just going to plug, we're going to do a very informal kind of peer-to-peer learning this fall, or if you're interested and you're in the beginning stages of learning about organic, we will pair you with an expert in organic land care, and just to have a couple of chats and kind of like a mentor to help you with the process. And so if you're interested in that, we will be sending out a form via email. So stay tuned.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so
Have a
much for
great day.
joining.
Bye.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.